My name is Alicia Shapiro, and I'm with AInews.com. In today's rapidly evolving landscape of technology, the intersection of artificial intelligence and high performance computing stands at a cornerstone of innovation, promising to redefine the future of digital infrastructure. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Wes Cummins, the CEO and chairman of Applied Digital, a company that stands at the forefront of this innovation, driving sustainability and efficiency in digital infrastructure development. Wes brings to the table not only a wealth of experience in technology investment, but also a visionary approach to integrating AI, high performance computing, and blockchain technologies in a manner that's not just future ready, but also environmentally conscious. Wes, thank you for joining us today to share your insights and visions.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So, how do you see the integration of high performance computing and artificial intelligence evolving over the next decade? And what role do you see Applied Digital playing that role?
So, high performance in computing has been something that has happened for, years, decades already.
Mhm.
Much smaller, I call it niche applications for high performance computing. And it was often, built at national labs, universities, it was very research driven. Also used a lot of GPUs,
Right.
supercomputing companies that built these out over time. But high performance computing is exactly that. It's computing driven versus comms driven or communications
Uh,
driven. So
Gotcha.
when we look at the vast majority of the things that we use today and the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that's been built to service these applications over the past, 20 or 30 years, it's really been communications driven. It's been mostly video based and image
Mhm.
based. Think of all the apps that we use that have driven, this crazy growth over the past couple of decades since the arrival of the internet. And it's mostly video driven, right? We have
Right.
things like Netflix, we have things like YouTube, now TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these things that deliver video to us, and us just sharing videos constantly with our friends and family and coworkers. So there was a lot of digital infrastructure built for that.
Mhm.
Data centers that were typically in what we would call cloud regions, places of high population density, so that you had ultra low latency communications between the end user and the data center where you were, hosting these types of video applications. And now as we move forward, the high performance computing has been around, like I said, for quite a while, but now it's really starting to explode with artificial intelligence. So with the
Yep.
introduction of ChatGPT in the right at the end of 2022, and now you're seeing a lot of these applications take off. They're much more compute or computationally driven versus communications driven. And so what does that mean? That means that the infrastructure that runs this type of equipment and the actual equipment it runs on versus like a web server, it needs a significant amount of power. There needs to be ultra low latency inside the data center, not what historically it's been about outside, like from data center to end user. And so it's different, a very different type of infrastructure that requires really high power. With high power comes heat, so you need different cooling, heat
Right.
dissipation that's necessary. And so the compute equipment is a lot different versus all the applications we built in the past. And where I see our company is that we're at the forefront of building out this digital infrastructure. So we've already had a lot of experience, building high power density data centers, and now we've changed into high performance compute slash high power density data centers. That we've built one in Jamestown, North Dakota. We're building our second, really flagship. I call it the AI Brain Data Center in Ellendale, North Dakota, and it's 100 megawatts single building, 100 megawatts IT load single building. And this is the type of infrastructure that we're involved in to really, participate in this new ecosystem that I expect to grow significantly over the coming decade.
Right. And I was thinking about that when I was reading some articles because I know they're also looking into nuclear power and everything else to try to power these computer systems because
Sure.
AIs just takes so much energy. Um, so that's really interesting. But if you can get the digital infrastructure in place first, then perhaps you don't need those high powered
So,
situations.
so you'll still need the power. So one of the
Okay.
biggest challenges that I see in the market, I think it'll become very, obvious as we go through this year and into next, is data center capacity, and it's really the power availability. So there's a couple of items: the power availability for the data center, and then supply chain for all the equipment that goes into handling the electricity, the HVAC, the environmental. So there's extremely high demand for that in the market right now, and so the supply chain is difficult to navigate for sure. But power, I would say, is probably one of the top, if not the top issues, for the next 18, 24, 36 months. And because this is a fairly power hungry application, and as all compute is, and being able to source power has become a significant problem. And
Yeah.
when you look at traditional data center regions like the Ring in Virginia or Santa Clara, they're basically tapped out, right? You're looking at 5-year plus lead times for any significant amount of power, and that's kind of the case for everywhere that's a data center region. And so I'm happy to talk about how we find power, how we've locked up power, but I think that's one of the key components for what we do and how we participate in this ecosystem.
Yeah. How do you provide the power for that? Because I would think that would be a huge opportunity
Yeah,
for your
so
yeah.
it is, and we've been doing this, for 3 years already. We have a significant amount of power contracted and locked up. We built about 500 megawatts of Bitcoin focused data centers from call it September of 21 to September of 23.
Nice.
And so we are good at sourcing power, and the way we source power is we look for something I call stranded power. We call stranded power.
Hmm.
And what is stranded power? Stranded power, this, I think a lot of people think that if there's an electron made anywhere in the US or maybe anywhere in the world, it can be magically transported to be used by, someone anywhere in the US or the world. And that's just not the case. So you need the infrastructure
Hmm.
to move those. And there are certain places, typically with renewable energy builds, where there's a lot of power generation and not enough transportation capacity, so transport capacity. And oftentimes that power will go unused, or it'll be sold in the market at negative rates. And so what we've done with the 3 facilities that we built so far is every single one is either co-located with or located nearby large wind farms. Ours have all been wind, but it would be the
Oh,
same as solar. And so there's, at our site in Ellendale, North Dakota, a significant amount of wind power. I believe it's maybe close to 2 megawatts feeds into the substation where we have built our data center. And so we find this stranded power that oftentimes goes to waste, typically made from renewable sources. And so we move to the point of power generation to build our data centers instead of being in somewhere in a cloud region like in Dallas, or like I said in the other ones that I mentioned before. So that's really how we approach that. And typically what it results in is a lower cost of power, more power availability. And for a lot, not all, but a lot of the AI applications, you don't necessarily need ultra low latency. You don't need to be in the cloud regions. And so it's kind of a new dynamic in the market that we're able
yeah.
to benefit from.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah. Um, you mentioned the sustainability and the wind. That's fascinating to me because it seems like such a critical point for the digital infrastructure, and that's great that you're building these data centers with the direct access to the renewable energy source. So it not only is helping AI and high performance computing, but it is impacting the environment positively. So that's just great.
Yeah.
I
The, the other
that's
The
amazing.
other
Yeah.
the other big impact there that we focus on is the efficiency of the data center.
Right.
And
Okay.
so when you think about data center efficiency, there's 2 pieces of the efficiency. So you have the power that runs the compute load, and then you have the remaining power that is needed for cooling and mechanical and these other functions. And so there's a term called the PUE, which if you have a PUE of 1, that means 100% of the power is going to the IT load, which is as efficient as you can possibly be. a lot of the current data center builds, the PUE is in kind of 1.3 to 1.5. There's a kind of a broad range, but in that area, we're driving to have our PUE below 1.2.
Wow.
And in our first build, we're running like 1.17 on the PUE. But we expect that that's really one of the other pieces that we drive toward, and it's two things: much more environmentally friendly.
Mhm.
So if you can use renewables and you can drive your efficiency much higher, obviously your carbon load is going to be lighter. And then two, for our customers, that lower PUE means lower cost, and so it's also part of the cost benefit for our customers and their business operation as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, what would you say to the companies like OpenAI and NVIDIA and all that that are putting out these super high computing powered AI chips? Why do you think that's a waste of time?
No, so obviously NVIDIA is, they are, far and away the market leader here.
Mm.
They, we use a lot of NVIDIA chips, and we're an elite tier CSP with NVIDIA, which is CSP's cloud service provider. So NVIDIA is the leader here. I think you're going to get a lot of, because of what has happened, just, the nature of markets. This market has really taken off. NVIDIA was way ahead of the game. I think they're, are going to remain dominant for a long time. But you're going to see a lot of entrants in the market, and they're going to be, AMD has a competitive GPU product, Intel has a competitive GPU product. So you're going to see those, but then you're going to see purpose-built silicon, which typically comes in the form of ASICs, application-specific integrated circuit. So it's made for one application.
Gotcha.
And so I think we'll see some of those types of options come into the market, maybe some RISC-V based processors. There's going to be a lot of competition that comes into that market, because that's what happens when markets get really big and grow a lot.
Mhm.
And so, I think there is room for other people to come into the market, and always for innovation. But right now, NVIDIA has done a phenomenal job with their products. And what I'm seeing there with NVIDIA is they not only have they done a great job, kind of setting the marketplace with the A100 and then the H100 that they introduced last year, but they're accelerating their roadmap. Right, they
Right.
used to be the big upgrades came, every 4 years or so, and now you're seeing a much more accelerated roadmap from NVIDIA to continue to lead, being the lead innovator in this market. It'll be a big week. We're going to see a lot next week at GTC. That's
Right.
NVIDIA's big event, so we'll see a lot of announcements there as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and blockchain technology is another key area for applied digital. How do you see that and AI working together to create new opportunities or solutions within the industries that you serve?
So the big similarity that we see is the infrastructure, for both, is very high power density. And so I mentioned this before, but high power density, I should explain. So when you look in a data center, and you've seen, I'm sure, pictures of data centers, and there's big cabinets or racks of servers, right? And so in a single, cabinet or rack of servers, uh, historically, it's about 7.5 kilowatts to power an entire rack in like
Wow.
a hyperscale where you're doing web servers. So when we're dealing with like what we're building, and we're dealing with the NVIDIA's equipment specifically, we're building rack densities up to like 120 kilowatts per rack. So it
Wow.
delivers a lot more power. That's the high power density portion of this. Blockchain is very similar. And why is blockchain similar? It's because it uses, again, it's all compute driven, right? It's not high speed comms driven, it's compute. And when you're doing compute, it requires a much higher power input to do compute. And so, like, let's talk Bitcoin specifically. So Bitcoin is, it's doing, the servers in Bitcoin are doing a lot of calculations to secure and validate transactions on the Bitcoin network. That's what they do. And it's cryptography, excuse me. So it's
Mm.
cryptography. So it's just really, really large math equations, and so you use a lot of compute. So there's this overlap in the type of infrastructure that is needed, like the data center style infrastructure that's needed. And then, outside of that, I don't see, personally, we're not involved in applications around that, so I don't see a lot of overlap beyond that. But the
Mhm.
infrastructure is not that much different. It's pretty
That's
similar, high power density infrastructure.
they're looking into the blockchain technology to help prevent the misinformation that's all going out on the thing. So if with your company already having that blockchain technology in place, I think it'll even help it'll help more industries
Yes.
and
Yeah,
things.
so one of those, right? This is the talk about validating images
Right.
specifically, right? So
Yeah.
images, because this is going to become, it's already a problem, it's going to become a bigger problem. So validating the authenticity of things is something that the blockchain does very well. And so that could be a part, that those work hand in hand for validating authenticity, because you're going to, I mean, if you haven't spent time, you can look like Midjourney's text to image, right?
Mm,
Or OpenAI's Dolly 3 platform. Though the imagery that's created out of those is pretty amazing. And
yeah.
you've seen a lot of things that are, videos that are created that are completely AI generated. And you really can't tell the difference. And so validating authenticity is one of the things that blockchain does extraordinarily well, and could definitely integrate into that part of AI.
That's great. Yeah. As AI becomes more integrated into our daily lives, people are concerned about the ethical considerations. And so, what role do you believe the infrastructure providers like Applied Digital should play in the role of performing ethical AI development?
Yeah, I mean, for us as a company, we joined the AI Alliance recently. That it's completely based on
Oh,
the
great.
ethical AI applications. So for us, again, as an infrastructure provider, there's a line where we can choose who to have as customers and not have
Mm,
as customers. And we've made some of those choices where we passed on things that we didn't think fit our core values as a company.
mm, mhm.
But there's going to be so there's that aspect of it. The bigger ethical part of AI is trying to keep guardrails in place,
Right.
so that I think the big concern always is like what happens when it gets smarter than us, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit beyond our pay grade as the infrastructure provider. But we will have our input and be involved as much as possible. But there's kind of two big differences in kind of ethical AI. There's the things that we're talking about watermarking. You get all these deep fakes that go on. Sad things like the stuff that was going with Taylor Swift recently, and all
Oh,
these
yeah.
these fake nude images, and that's going to be a big issue. So that's one side of it, and that we can control pieces by not allowing access to our infrastructure for applications like that to run. The larger question, of when not letting AI get away from us and get smarter and not keep it controlled. That's again something that we can try to be involved in, but it's not really where we sit in the ecosystem.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And as a leader in a company at the forefront of AI and high computing, performance computing infrastructure, what is your personal vision for the future of AI, and how does that apply with Apply Digital's vision?
Sure. So there's two pieces to this. There's the what we are going to do inside of our company, and then there's kind of what I think the world is going to do with AI and kind of where it goes. So for us as an infrastructure provider, the goal is to provide highest performance, lowest cost, most efficient infrastructure for our clients to use and our customers to use. And that's super important for our business. That's our one of the things that we'll have to compete on. And so the lowering power consumption, lowering costs, being more efficient, higher up times, that's a real focus inside of our company. And then as I look at the kind of the AI landscape in general, the large language models that wowed everyone at the start with ChatGPT, those are going to proliferate everywhere, right? You're going
Okay.
to see so many companies, whether you're consumer facing or inside, are going to have an AI chatbot, that's
Yeah.
going to be your customer service or your help desk inside the company or whatever it might be. That's just the starting point. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. The image video generation, whether it's for entertainment, whether it's for marketing, for advertising, there's going to be a huge amount of that takes off.
Yeah.
And it's already taken off. So that's
Hmm.
going. And then we've seen co-pilots, and I think you're going to see a lot of co-pilots show up. So
Oh,
Microsoft with their Copilot, Gemini, Google, right? You're going to get all of these kind of helpers inside of your application that you're already using to make you much more efficient. GitHub was one of the first ones out there with Copilot. And I was
Mm.
reading that GitHub, the Copilot's writing now over 50% of the code for the programmers. And so you're
Wow.
making people much, much more efficient.
Hmm.
Um, but there's one that I think will start to get talked about a lot more over the next, 12 to 24 months, which I think
Mm.
is a massive application for AI, and that's humanoids. So I think
Oh, yeah.
humanoids will be a really large AI-driven application. So mechanically, for the most part, humanoids are there from a
Hmm.
mechanical perspective. They can, walk, function, do tasks. It's been the brain development that has been much, further behind. But with the compute power that companies like NVIDIA are bringing to the market and other companies bringing to the market, and the way generative AI is now working, I think you're going to see big advancements in humanoids over just a very short period of time. And
Yeah.
there's a few companies that are interesting to watch out there on the humanoid front that are definitely leaders in the field. But the reason it'll be big for a company like ours, right, that's providing infrastructure, is it's mostly going to be visual training, so video
Mm.
image based training, which requires a lot of compute for
High
this.
computing. Hmm.
And so I do think that's a market that hasn't really taken off yet. But all of the pieces of the puzzle are there now.
That's
And
great.
that's probably a scary market for people, right? That's kind of one of the scarier ones. But I think it'll be eventually people will realize that this is a really helpful item to have. But I do think that's one of the next big applications that we'll see for AI.
That's awesome. Yeah. And with your extensive experience in technology investment and company leadership, what advice would you give to aspiring technologists and entrepreneurs looking to make a mark in the AI or high performance computing sectors?
It's a it's a fast growing market. It's we'll see. Typically in extremely fast growing markets, you have kind of ebbs and flows,
Hmm.
and so you have to be prepared for that. It's not generally always just a straight line up, but it's probably the most exciting technology revolution that we'll see, in our lifetimes. The internet was exciting.
Oh, yeah.
There's that was, a huge change for everyone. This is that next step function.
Hmm.
And so anyone who's looking to be in the space, I think it's got extremely strong long-term prospects,
Hmm.
but you have to pick, there's so many places, just like any industry, there's so many places to be. We're focused on infrastructure.
Right.
But then there's, there's the applications, there's a whole software layer in the ecosystem that helps companies develop their applications and train their models and do all of this. So there's a lot of pieces that you can be involved in this industry, and I think it's one of the greatest opportunities that we'll probably ever see.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so maybe niche down and pick a niche that would maybe suit their best interests and abilities.
So so one of the biggest, so this is just really more of the change
Hmm.
in the way technology works. So um, a lot of the companies that we work with that have products that are in market that have millions and millions of users, you would think that they have a large employee base, because historically, if you're doing,
Mm.
because people think a lot of AI is software 3.0. And so
Mm.
what do you do with software? You get a lot of coders, right? And then you make the
Right.
software, and they work on improving the software, and you make a product. But here you can make these products and kind of make the software with much fewer people. And so
Mm-hmm.
some of the companies we work with, like I said, have millions, if not tens of millions of users on their application, and they'll have 10 to 20 employees inside the company.
Hmm.
It's really interesting, and if you learn how to do that, you can create the right application, a new application, be in a space where it doesn't really require this huge amount of manpower that it used to require to do
Yeah.
that. It's more like easy app development, like on the app store. But it's
Mm.
an interesting place to be in. And so if it were me, is just a one person looking to get into the space, I would be looking at that part where you're looking for that application. Now the cost does come in on finding the compute power to develop your application, because that is kind of expensive. But
Yeah.
that's the part I would be focused on. I mean, I've seen a lot of people write about and articles about, eventually you're going to see the first, $1 billion one person company because of AI,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so it's a unique time to be an entrepreneur and to be a founder of a tech company, because it's just, the skill set has changed. And when there's change in an industry and something new, that's when people can, come into the industry. It's still wide open.
Yeah.
And so that would be, kind of the my advice, I guess,
Yeah.
as I would say.
Yeah. Huge opportunity anyway.
Yeah,
And we're almost done with our conversation, but I just thought we would jump into some more lighter personal questions to give our
sure.
audience a glimpse into the person behind Applied Digital. So, throughout your career in technology investments, there must have been some moments or people that particularly inspired you. Could you share one such source of inspiration and how it influenced your approach to leadership and innovation at Applied Digital?
Yeah, so I've had several of those that were
Hmm.
big. I called mentors, and people that I looked up to. Is very It's always very nice through a career to have someone that takes the time to explain things to you, or show you, or do things by example. So I've had many of those. I would hate to single out just
Yeah,
one.
that's true.
But it is really helpful to have that. And I've had those people from my first internship in college, to one of my first jobs out of school. And I've had that growth in my career. But it's really been, I've been able to work with some really great people that have kind of helped me grow up to the person I am. And I've had failures for sure, and you learn a lot from failures through your career. And one of the biggest things I learned, and that I really changed as we started this company, was knowing what I'm good at, and more importantly, knowing what I'm not good at, and then getting people
Mhm.
around me that are good at the things that I'm not good at, that are important things to have.
Yeah.
And so that's been a real key differentiator for me on, in this venture, is filling in a team of people that know exactly, that do a great job at the things that I don't do a great job at.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And when you're not leading the charge at Applied Digital, how do you like to spend your free time? Are there any hobbies or interests that might surprise people when they learn about them?
So this is always the one. I have 8 kids, 8, and so
Nice.
that's where I spend most of my free time when I'm not
Yeah.
running the company.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And in a world increasingly dominated by technology and connectivity, finding ways to disconnect and recharge is just as crucial. So, what's your favorite way to unwind and disconnect from the digital world?
Well, it's still there. I'm still connected to the digital world, but the best way for me to unwind is some time away from the kids with my wife, and
Oh,
we
that's
like to
nice.
spend time. And if we can catch that a couple of days a week, and maybe once on the weekend or something, that's really the time that helps me unwind. If it's a walk or dinner or whatever, but a little quiet time that is just for us.
Mhm.
And then I like to play a certain frequency of music in the background. You see the speaker behind me,
Mm,
that is like a calming type music that keeps me focused during the day. So
focused. Yeah. That's great. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure discussing AI and high performance computing with you today. Your insights not only put a spotlight on the path that Applied Digital is carving in the industry, but also highlight the broader implications of these technologies. So, as we conclude our conversation, I just want to thank you for sharing your time and your thoughts with us. Your blend of professional abilities and personal passions are evident, and they offer a rich perspective that's both inspiring and thought provoking. So, to our audience, we hope this dialogue has sparked some curiosity and encourages you to explore the vast possibilities that AI and high performance computing hold for our future. And you can learn more about Applied Digital by going to their website, applieddigital.com. Wes, thank you once again for joining us and for this fascinating discussion.
absolutely, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.